Okay. Sorry, I was reading a message from YouTube when I just came live. So you're welcome to the Bible in 1 Year with Uchido, and I'm Uchido. Some people know me as OC, and I had to say that there because a lot of my programs. So I'm a co-host of a show in Christian Broadcasting Network, and on all my shows for CBN, I'm known as OC. So I was told that I need to also identify as OC so that people can track some other things that I do around faith. All right, so you're welcome to the Bible in 1 Year with me, Uchido, aka OC. And today is day 200. Day 200. Okay, we're going to be looking at. So if you're joining me for the first time, we are doing the Bible, reading through the Bible this entire year. I retell the stories or I dramatize where necessary or where I feel like it. I'm doing this so that I can understand it better, know where the stories are located in the Bible, and basically have a good overall exposure to what the Bible is about, so that if I hear anything that I would like, I don't think I've seen this written anywhere before, that knowledge that comes with just being exposed to the right information. So I share my thoughts with an audience. I list it with Nigerian humor, and we follow the structure guide from this book that allows us to read an Old Testament, a New Testament, a Psalm, and a Proverb as we do so. So today is day 200. We've covered great ground, and I don't want to waste a lot of time reintroducing myself. So, okay, so questions have come in, and one of the questions, what do you really do? Are you on TikTok? No. So outside of this, I have other channels that address things around personal development, rebranding, and reinvention. I'm an architect. I actually run a licensed firm where we design for commercial and corporate organizations and residential as well. Mostly recreational and hospitality spaces. I also am a PhD student, and I'm studying some stuff around architecture, some more, to make sure I get to the top of what it is that I'm doing. That said, I'm sharing this. I'm not a pastor. I'm just a woman who loves God and is driven to share her love of God with an audience. Okay, that's basically it in a nutshell. So today is Chronicles. We're looking at David. David has just, David had to usurp his son, his other son, his old Adonijah, from being king, right? In the previous episode. So David needed to tell and he did it overnight. When the news came to David that his son had named himself king, it was like a coup. So David was like, get me Solomon, get me my robe, get me my noble steed and my mule. Dress Solomon and put him on thing and send him to this thing and make him king. So there was an overnight, instantaneous crowning of a new king while David was still alive. With hi Joe, I see you, thank you. While Joe was still alive. And so if why Joe was still alive, Joe, you distracted me. Why King David was still alive, telling me that, look, succession plans are very important. I'm very well, thank you. Succession plans are very important, and you should not wait till you are. So it's a thing in Africa where people don't want to talk about succession. It's a thing, people run away from it. They think if they talk about succession, you're implying that they are no longer relevant or they will die. So please, succession plans are very important, and David demonstrated that here. So basically, this particular script, that the Chronicles, the scriptures in the Chronicles are telling us a bit more detail about what happened in first and second Samuel, first and second Kings. It gives us a rounded, more intricate details about some of the back end things that happened during those times when they were kings. So David invited all the top officials, the top military officers, the leaders of the community, the chiefs, everybody around, and he was trying to explain to them why he has chosen David as king. And this is what he said: I actually intended to build a house for God, but God said, no, you wouldn't. I have fought a lot of wars. I've been in a lot of war and shed a lot of blood. So I don't want you to build my temple. But I recognize you, and I promised you that your son will sit on the throne, right? Yes. However, I was chosen to be king, and Judah was chosen to rule. And so now he has chosen Solomon to sit on my throne after me. And Solomon will build that temple. Now, uh he begins to tell them that please, he has established him. And so he tells them, please, I need you guys to obey God's commands. When God has given an instruction like this, please everybody obey it, okay? And he says, everybody, we have to seek and obey God's command. Then he turns to his son Solomon, and he says, he tells them that, he says, Solomon, sorry, I'm trying to follow my notes now. So he says, Solomon, you have to know and serve God, willingly trust and serve him so that he will help you. Stick with him. If you don't stick with him, he will discard you. So I'm telling you one of the tricks that kept God. Look, listen. So this is me now. Pause. Not the Bible, my thoughts. So this is me now listing my thoughts with uh it's me listing my thoughts with what I think would have transpired. So he says, look, Solomon, I've done a lot of things, right? But God has kept me successful and kept me on the throne. Why? Because I didn't stray from him. When I made a mistake, I went back to God. So number two, you can make a mistake and go back to God. Like, no mistake is too bad, too terrible. So today is 19th, and if you're in the world today, there's one viral video that has been going on a CEO of I forget the name now, a CEO and his HR who were caught, right, at a Coldplay concert. Yes, I'm quite informed. Yeah, so it's going viral. Everyone's making fun of it, and of course people are expecting that. So even something that grave, you can still come back to God. You understand? That's what David is telling his son. So stick to God, stick to him, follow him so that he doesn't discard you. So I really don't know where the idea that God's love is unconditional came from, because when God will love you like a mother will love a child unconditionally, but she doesn't have to put up with a bad child who can harm other people. Then we need to separate that child from the rest if a child decides to become a very evil person. Do you understand? Okay, so he says, Solomon, please stick to God, be strong and build the house. Then he shared the floor plans with the entire council, the assembly of people he had gathered. He shared the floor plans of the treasury, the courts, the ideas. David really, really loved God. Like, it's really amazing to see David's love for God. He shared the floor plans, the treasury, the dedicated stuff, all the articles that he had kept for service. They included gold, silver, bronze, from all his escapades, all the things, spoils of war, what he could have kept, what could have traded with, everything. He kept some things for the temple, for the building of the temple. Then he said, I chose to do even more than that. So I've kept some stuff for the temple, but now I'm bringing out my personal reserve. This is my own money that I need to share with my children. I'm going to take some part of that money. I'm going to add to the temple, just to show you guys how dedicated I am to this work, so that you won't think I'm making you do something you won't think I'm making you do something I'm not willing to do. So he says, everything that is needed, I will do. So David said, I understand what God needed me to do, and by his hand, by his hand upon me, the fact that I'm even willing and able to do this is the grace of God. That's what God is, David is saying here. So he says, by his hand and all the works, I know what God requires of this temple. I know what we need to do to get this temple standing. I know, I've seen it, I've sketched it out, I've planned it. The beauty, I'm well traveled. I've seen whatever. I'm going to bring it all together. I'm going to give you that stuff. So he gives it to Solomon. And then he tells his son, be courageous and strong. God won't forsake you, all the leaders here, the entire nation, they'll be at your beck and call. Okay? Make sure the different divisions in the priests and the Levites, they will work with you. The craftsmen and leaders across the nations, they will work with you. Okay? They will be at your command. Then David turns back to the assembly and he says to them, my son Solomon is young and inexperienced, right? You guys need to help him. Don't leave him to make a mistake. Guide him. He's still young. Look at this, just barely 20 or 21. You know, I've given him the mountain. God, it has pleased God to pick him out of all my children. Meaning that leadership can arise from anywhere and it's not an entitlement. That's the third thing I'm taking away from this. So I'm a firstborn and a first daughter. There's an assumption that some things will just come naturally to me, but I have no assumptions of I just don't. I try to make sure I build myself, I give value so that if there's any reason for anyone to be picked, I will still be considered valuable enough, just like Solomon was. Okay, so he says, please help him. Okay, I have kept a lot of materials for the building of the temple, just to make sure it is easy for him to do. You guys, I need you guys to cooperate with him. Do not fight him and all of that. Okay, now are you guys willing to consecrate and join me in this donation? And all the leaders say, yeah, go David, go. I get up, I donate 50 talents of silver. Woo! I donate 50 talents of gold. Woo! I own a timber factory. I'm going to donate the timber factories for the court. Whoa! So David gingers everybody and everybody gives. There was massive rejoicing. Everybody was like, there was such a happy moment and everyone was hopeful and thankful and grateful, and there was a lot of merriment in the air. 1,000 bulls, 1,000 lambs, 1,000 rams were sacrificed. Solomon wasn't the first to do 1,000. This is 3,000 right here. This is 3,000 right here. Solomon wasn't the first to sacrifice 1,000 anything, but we thought it was, because it wasn't really written in the book of Kings that David also did this. So David led by example. Crazy example. Led by, so that no one could argue with him. When David said, I want to do this, David led with action. David led with resources. David led with vision. What an incredible man. What an incredible man. So he died in old age. There was not, so at the time all of this happened, Solomon was recrowned again. There was now like a formal crowning ceremony all over again. And they put the crown on Solomon and made him king a second time. And David was pleased and went back to his bed and died in ripe old age, honored, wealthy. In Africa, there's a thing I've observed. Many people are wealthy in their youth and they're not wealthy in their old age. I don't know. And I've experienced that even in my personal family. Okay, I know people that didn't die wealthy, even though they were wealthy when they were young. It is the plan of God that you die wealthy and honored and not discarded. Okay, so that's when the First Chronicles chapters 28 and 29 ends, and that closes the First Chronicles, the entire book of First Chronicles. Okay, so David went on and slept and went on to be with the fathers, joined the ancestry, joined the elders, join the ancestors. Anyway, so that brings an end to the first reading to today. The second, and I'll do this in a few minutes. So like I told you, every day we read an Old Testament and New Testament sermon, and I see you there. Thank you for hanging in there. And say something in the comments about the story, or go read it for yourself. The scriptures will be in the description box. Okay, if you are yet to subscribe, please subscribe to my channel. Tell me you are enjoying this. Share this with those who need it, or who you think are curious about the Bible, or you think I've not been reading the Bible, I need someone to encourage me to. You have found the right spot. Okay, just follow me every day. Every day I leave an episode. If I miss an episode, I will try and catch up. Okay, we're human and life is happening every single day. All right, so now we're looking at the book of Romans. I have to say something about the book of Romans chapters 5. Romans is very tough. I find Romans very meaty, very complicated to read. Paul uses a lot of English to explain stuff, so I can see why the disciples found him a bit difficult to understand, but he's very learned. He's a lawyer and understands what he's talking about. So in summary, Paul here, this is Romans chapters 5 verses 3 to 21. We accept tribulations because they develop perseverance, character, and hope. That's in summary. So maybe people were complaining that, look, we are being bullied, we are being persecuted, we're not sure if this is what really God wants. So Paul is saying, not exactly. It's actually part of the curriculum. You're going to be persecuted at some point for having the faith and belief that you have. But don't worry about it. We embrace it really because it helps build character in us, it helps develop perseverance in us, and it helps develop faith. So because when we're without strength, Jesus died for us. And for Jesus to even die for us when we were without strength, when we were not even good people, you wouldn't even die for a righteous man. You won't even die for a good person. You can't even, some people can't, let me not say some, it's not a common thing, but even for your child, it'd be tough to die for your child, right? Yes, just to die for the person you love. Yet Jesus died for us when we're still sinners. So all of this attempt is a reconciliation. That's what Paul is saying here. So it'll be good for you to read, and when you're going to read it yourself, please find a Bible that makes a lot of it's simple to read. I'm reading the New King James Version. I'm going to go and read this in the New Living Translation again, all the message, because this is so meaty, like so much English, Anyway, so he says Jesus died, and he won't even die for a good man, but God did for us sinners like us. So now we have been justified. Like if a bad man was defended by a very top judge who is a very noble character in town, that bad man ceases to become a bad man. He'll be embraced and forgiven because a very good man has said, look, leave that guy alone. I take responsibility for his crimes and errors. That's what God did for us. So that's what Paul is saying here. Paul is trying very hard to convince the Jews, to convince the Gentiles to see things his way. Let go of, accept that there was a need for Jesus to die for you. Accept that you had sin. And then accept that God has made it possible for you to get out of that sin because he has reconciled himself to you. So that's what Paul is saying here. He says here, a man, Adam, brought sin into the world, and it spread right through down to us. And back in the day, when there was no law, nothing was called a sin. Now it is called a sin because a law has been created. So that made a lot of sense to me, because if there's no law against stealing and somebody stole, it's just be a thing happening in the country or a thing happening. But when there's a law that says do not steal, then it becomes a law. So God, let me see if I can go back to my notes. A law was written before Adam. It was not considered a bad thing. There was no, but now there's a law. We are aware of that law, and when we become aware of that law, we have to adjust accordingly. That's what Paul is saying. Paul is saying that there was no law before, but now there is a law. So if there is a law, adjust. Let go of what is considered a crime, a spiritual crime, a sin, and accept that God has made his grace available for you to live above that sin. So if there's just settle in your mind that anywhere that sin abounds heavily, there's a grace to overcome that sin. So I'm a science student, and there's a law of opposites. There's a law of, what's that law called now? Oh, I'm trying to remember. But it's a law of. So let me give you an example. You have a tap head. If the science students watching this thing, please put it in the comments below. Let me be reminded. There's a turning. There's a torque. You push this, it comes. You push. If I will try to remember and maybe put it in the comments. So there's a law of in and out. Law of open and close. If there's a lot of sin in a place, there's a law that sends more grace to overcome that sin in that place. So if you're in a place where a lot of crime is being done, you are usually stronger than people in a place where there's not a lot of crime being done. So for instance, in my country, in the northern part of the country, there's a lot of angst against Christians by terrorists, spiritual Islamic like terrorists, right? In those places, when you meet Christians that come from those places, they are usually incredibly stronger, more focused, clearer, and then more courageous than, say, down south where I grew up, where our Christianity is kind of like tied around, oh, I want God to give me a car, give me a cute house, and give me a cute family, and we are unable to withstand pressure as much as those in the north. Why? Because the northern Christians, this is my personal opinion, though. All right, so northern Christians have seen a lot of drama, and they have chosen and they have squared up to the challenge. So that's the same thing. When grace has been made available in a place, it can overcome the sin that exists in that place. So that's what Paul was saying here. One man brought sin into the world, one man brought justification, and that justification has enabled us, it has exposed it has enabled us be able to live right or above that issue as well. I hope this makes sense to you. I hope this makes sense to you. I hope this makes sense. So that if you feel like, oh, let me just join the bandwagon. If you can't beat them, join them. No, if you can't beat them, there's usually grace for you to live stronger. I don't know. Test it. Test this theory I'm telling you. Just look at cases of people where they have been immersed in real trials. They're stronger than people who haven't been. It's a law of science. So Paul is just exhibiting that law. Okay? So Paul says the gift of life is different from the one who brought sin. One man brought sin, another man brought justification and righteousness. The law exposed the crime, named it a crime, but it also means that the grace to live righteously and above that crime is also present. Is also present. So please, take away anything you're going to take away today is that there is actually, you really can. You just have to accept in your mindset that it's possible to live above the issues that you're dealing with. I've tried, okay? I hope I've tried to make sense of this. And I would love to hear your comments, okay? Finally, in 1 minute, we're rounding up. Proverbs 19, 18, and 19. Chasten your son while there is still hope, and do not set your heart on his destruction. Do not assume that your son will be destroyed because he is stubborn. A man of great wrath will suffer punishment, but if you rescue him, you will have to do it again. I don't know what that means. Alright, so that ends today our Bible reading today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for those who have left comments. Thank you for those who have subscribed, and thank you for those who will catch up with this. I hope to see you tomorrow. Make sure you subscribe. God bless you.